Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Accurascale have just released another brand new locomotive, so today I'm going to take a first look and see what it's all about. Today's loco will be the 6th loco that I've reviewed from Accurascale, and it's quite astonishing that this company has produced as many as 6 locos already, but they have. And the thing about the previous 5 Accurascale locos that I've looked at is that each one was absolutely stunning. So I'm curious to see whether today's loco is going to be able to maintain that trend. Fingers crossed it will. So the new release is this. It is Accurascale's all-new Class 31, which is available to buy now for £169.99. Now when it comes to the Class 31, there's actually a lot of choice. I chose the Accurascale one because I think that's the best option, and I'll explain why in just a second, but there are lots of other options. There's also the Bachmann Class 31, which is also brand new, and at its full price it is much more expensive than Accurascale's at £199.95. But at the retailers it costs exactly the same as Accurascale's, £169.99, which seems like an unusually reasonable price for a new Bachmann loco, doesn't it? Which just goes to show that as soon as there's a bit of competition, Bachmann are miraculously able to produce more reasonable prices. Yeah, funny that, isn't it? And that also tells me that when Bachmann's prices are much higher for other models, that is a choice. It's not absolutely necessary, which is what I've suspected all along. But anyway, the new Bachmann 31, it's available at the same price, but I still went for Accurascale's because by my estimations anyway, historically Accurascale's locos have been better than Bachmann's, I would say. And also the Accurascale 31 offers more features. For instance, this model has a motorised fan, which sounds amazing. I can't wait to see that in action. Now, Bachmann's 31 does also have a motorised fan, but to get it, you've got to buy the sound-fitted deluxe version of the model, which is considerably more expensive. So no thank you, Bachmann. Even the cheapest DCC-ready version of Accurascale's 31 does come with the motorised fan. So yeah, it's a gimmicky feature, but if they're giving it to me for free, sure, I'll take it. Then of course there's the Hornby Railroad Class 31, which is obviously much more affordable than the likes of Accurascale and Bachmann, but it's also a much older model, which is way more basic. Great for beginners and those on a budget, but not really what I'm looking for. And then of course there's the Hornby Railways Class 31. God dearie me, look at that price, £244.99. Just ridiculous for a model that dates back almost 20 years now. It's been updated a little bit recently, but I can't see many people buying that model anymore. And yeah, the retailers are desperately trying to shift these at heavily reduced prices. I can see some people maybe being tempted by that, but I think for most people it's going to be Accurascale or Bachmann, and I went for Accurascale. So that was my choice. Whether I made the right choice or not, I'm not sure. If this is impressive, then yeah, I think this will have been the right choice for the same money as Bachmann's. But anyway, if you're interested in these, I'll pop some affiliate links down in the description. But for now, let's take a look at this. Let's see if this is as good as Accurascale's previous locos, and let's see if I did make that right choice. Okay, let's get started. Alright, here comes the exciting part then. So we've got yet another very large Accurascale box, which is also heavy. That's a very good sign, as usual. Let me show you the end of the box then. So the version I've gone for is Class 31 locomotive. It's number 31409. It is ACC 2749-31409 in the BR Blue, and it is Era 7. Now at the time of filming, this is the only example that I've seen released at the moment. Obviously though, there's lots more different liveries to follow over the coming months. But anyway, got this one, so let's open this up and see what this is like. So take the sleeve off. Yeah, I do like this kind of minimalist packaging design that Accurascale does. Anyway, not had this open yet, so let's do it for the first time on camera. Lifting the lid. Not reviewed a new Class 31 for a very long time. Have I ever done it? I don't think I have. I've never reviewed the Hornby one, I don't believe. And I didn't do the Bachmann one. I mean, maybe I should, but I haven't done yet. Right, we've got some warnings here. So, yes, you must read the instructions on the reverse of this card before operating your model. Yeah, historically, I've not found that to be true. My railway was not destroyed when I didn't act on this card, but let's have a look anyway. So, apparently there are these switches on the loco circuit board, and you've got to set these correctly depending on which decoder you're going to use. I'm going to use this on analog though, with the blanking plug fitted, so I guess I'll be checking that the switches are set at the bottom there, which are alternating in a pleasing manner. Okay, and what's the other one? All right, another diabolical warning, and this is just telling you not to run this brand new loco on a kind of old-fashioned cronky controller, which I won't do. I use a nice modern Gauge Master controller. And there is the loco. Oh, yes. I thought this was going to be quite a plain looking BR blue, but of course it's got the yellow ends and it's also got the kind of silver stripe across the body. So it does actually have a bit of variety in its livery, which I like. Right, I'm just looking for some instructions, which I don't seem to have. Where are they then? Are they underneath? They must be underneath. They are. Oh, I thought they were missing then. Okay, well, we'll look at the logo in a second then. So first of all, look at this. A large variety of head codes here. Now, are these transfers? No, they're not transfers, they're stickers. So you can apply these. We'll take a look and see how you would do that a little bit later on. We've got, ooh, what's that? A grill. Oh dear. Well, that should be fitted to the model, shouldn't it? But it isn't. Okay, well, we'll have to see if I can figure out where that went later on. Okay, so we've got this handbook for the Class 30 or 31 model locomotives, done in the style of an old-fashioned locomotive manual, which I like. All right, so let's have a quick flick through this. History of the Class 31, this is amazing. Again, still, even now, not many manufacturers sort of give you all of this with your models. Yeah, loads of history and background on the Class 31. In fact, usually that's all these booklets are, just entirely dedicated to worshipping the real thing. Yeah, it's great. Pages and pages of it. So that's really, really cool. Hopefully we've got a bit about the model. I'll just show you this. So it's a list of DCC functions, and we've got some amazing functions on here. I mean, we've got driver's desk on and off. So that's obviously lighting inside the cab, loads of sound effects and such, and on the back, more cab lights, loads and loads of lighting on here. So that's that. What have we got here? Ah, this is good. Right, so if like me, you wouldn't know what to do with those head codes, you've got this key which explains what each of them would be for. So that's pretty useful. Very good thinking on that. And then finally then, sorry this is taking so long, this must be about the loco itself. All right, so nice photo of the real thing. A bit about unpacking, I should think that's the same as usual. Intended use, I see it's intended for a minimum of second radius curves. More generic information. Oh, here we go, look at this. So an exploded diagram with so many parts to it. Look at all of that. Can't see the grill that's dropped off mine, but I'm sure it'll be obvious later on. There's the mechanism, got an absolutely massive centrally mounted motor there with dual flywheels. Wow, it's just astonishingly complicated, isn't it? And then we've got a bit about DCC decoder access. So apparently you've got another magnetic roof panel on this loco, which gives you immediate access to the DCC socket. Perfect. And then we've got a bit about buffer beam detailing here. Nice little key which shows you where the various components go. And then on the back, we've got a bit about lubrication, general care, that's all fairly standard. Removing the body shell, so this shows you how to do that. Looks like the body's clipped on. Obviously you shouldn't really need to do this because they've provided that handy hatch in the roof for DCC access, but you can still do it. Detail pack fitting guide, and you can also fit crew if you want to, although I don't believe the loco comes with any. They are available separately. Okay, an absolute mountain of paperwork, which you can sort of delve into or ignore as you see fit. But I think for now, I'm gonna take a look at this thing and see what this is like. So let's start by undoing this sleeve, and we'll take a quick look at the accessories, because I can see we've got loads in here. Snow plows, so apparently each 31's got snow plows that you can fit if you want to. Pipe work, proper screw-link couplings in here, loads and loads of different detail in here, including something that is wrapped up in a bit of tissue paper. Come on then, definitely got to see what's in there. I want to know what's in there. Don't know if this loco's got any sort of nameplates. I don't think it does. Okay. 2 little pieces of glazing. So I assume once you've applied those head code stickers, you can then put the glazing over the top to give it the right finish. So yeah, nice addition. I'll wrap those back up for now though. Okay, first look at the loco's finish then. Is this going to look as good as the rest of Accurascale's fleet? I should imagine so. Let's have a look then. Do this carefully. Oh, yeah. Look at that. What a finish on there. Yes, it's a very, very vivid blue, that is. I don't know if that's coming across on camera, but it really does pop. Gosh. Okay, lifting up then. Is this a heavy one? It seems to be. Well, it's not sort of knocking me over with its weight like some of Accurascale's other locos, but then again, this isn't as large as the likes of the Deltics and such. But I will pop this on the scales and let you know what this weighs in just a second. But yeah, I mean, once again, the level of detail just hits you the moment you see this. A very, very good looking loco. And it seems to be nicely built as well. I do know that there's a missing grille somewhere. Haven't spied exactly where that goes yet. So that might be a slight black mark on the quality front. But apart from that, yeah, this does seem to be beautifully built and it just looks so pristine. The paint job is just crazy precise. So there you have it, Accurascale's brand new Class 31. Let's have a bit of background on these in real life, and then we'll take a much closer look at this loco and all its various features. The British Rail Class 31 was a fleet of 263 Coco diesel locomotives built by Brush Traction and introduced in 1957. This came just as steam locomotives were starting to be phased out, and the Class 31, along with other early British diesels, was instrumental in replacing steam traction. There were many subclasses of Class 31, ranging from the Class 31/0 all the way through to 31/6, and each had various different features. The first Class 31s were built with Merley's 1,250 brake horsepower diesel engines, which were considered unsuccessful, and so in 1965, every engine in the class was re-engined with a better and more powerful 1,470 brake horsepower English electric engine, similar to that in the Class 37, which proved to be much better. 31409 was part of the Class 31/4 subclass, and these were converted from the Class 31-1 with the addition of electric train heating. The final Class 31 was withdrawn from service as recently as 2017, but today no less than 36 examples remain under preservation, many of which are still operational around the UK at various heritage railways. So there she is up close and personal for you, Accurascale's brand new Class 31. And as you can see, this is a very high quality looking engine. I think a lot of that is down to the kind of paint finish. Yeah, it just looks very luxurious and vibrant, doesn't it? But it's also very well detailed, as you can see, and pretty well built as well. Weight-wise though, this isn't as impressive as some of Accurascale's other locos. In fact, this is the lightest Accurascale diesel I've got. It's also the smallest, I think, so that's fair enough. But noticeably this isn't as wildly heavy as some of the others. It's decently heavy at 439 grams, but that is some 20 grams lighter than the EFE Rail Bullied Booster, which is almost exactly the same size, and it's about 30 grams lighter than the Bachmann Class 25. Now admittedly there's less tech inside the Bullied Booster and the 25, but that does mean that the weight of this is just okay, as opposed to being absolutely astonishing, as is usually the case with Accurascale. But anyway, let's take a close look at the decoration then, which is just superb. Like I've already said, the paint finish is great. The silver band or the white band across the body, look how sharp that is, as usual from Accurascale, perfectly done. The yellow ends, again, such a crisp line there between the yellow and the blue. Very, very good job. And of course, as always, loads and loads of printed detail. So we've got the warning signs, which are nicely printed on. We've got the British Railways arrows, again, beautifully crisp. We've got the running number on the side of the cab and also some specs for the loco, and also some much, much smaller and finer printed detail along the bottom of the body. So yeah, beautifully painted. The detail is also very, very impressive, as you'd expect to see from Accurascale. So first of all, the bogies are really quite impressive because there's a lot of relief on some of the detail. So these springs, for instance, they really do poke out quite a bit from the bogies. Really nice and realistic effect. And of course, the quality of the moulding on the bogies is awesome as well. And there's a fair number of separately fitted parts as well. The wiring, I believe, is separate, not painted on this livery, but it is separate, so it stands out. And the little sort of grills on the steps, these are separately fitted as well. And it is one of these on the front bogie here that's come loose. So yeah, that one's missing. That's where that should have gone. And I guess that brings me on to quality. Again, the quality is good, but it's not quite to the same standard as usual from Accurascale. Like I say, we've got a part that's dropped off in the box. Don't think I've seen that before, at least not for a long time. It is lighter than a lot of Accurascale's other models. And we've got things like just plastic buffers, nothing wrong with that, of course, but Accurascale usually fit metal ones. And also the paint seems to have come off a bit on the corners of the buffer beams, and it's not just one either. That seems to be a recurring issue. So not a massive problem on quality, but equally not quite as good as we've seen before. Here's some of the underframe detail. Again, even some of this is decorated, which is awesome. And then here's a look at the ends where we have a lot of detail actually. So let's start at the bottom. We've got the NEM kinematic couplings, which have a really good smooth motion to them, yet they also return perfectly to the center, which is great. The buffer beams right out of the box are a little bit basic. We've got some cables pre-fitted, but everything else is provided in the accessories bag. I think that's just so that it doesn't foul the couplings. But we also have the buffers, which are sprung. They may be plastic, but they're sprung, which is good. And then above there, we've got the working lights, which I will hopefully be able to demonstrate later on. Separately fitted handrails here, lamp brackets, which are separately fitted too. The glazing is beautifully done. It's very flush to the outside of the body. And as you can see, all of the window frames have been picked out as well. They've also got the tiny little windscreen wipers, which are separately fitted and absolutely tiny. Look how fine those parts are. Here's the kind of head code box, if you like. This is where you can apply your head codes if you'd like to, although this is how they appear straight out of the box. And then around the side of the cab, you can see we've got these very finely separately fitted metal handrails. Obviously, these are not molded and they've got a great finish to them as well. And look, even the door handle on the side of the cab has been picked out very precisely. The cab interiors are very impressive. So we've got a lot of separately fitted controls and such, which are separately painted as well. We've got full printing on the back wall. Look at all of that. Some great prints in there, not just kind of printed out of someone's laser printer and stuck in. These appear to be properly printed onto the plastic parts, which looks better, I think. Full seating in there, and the floor level is realistic as well. So you don't have to amputate the legs of your crew if you wanted to fit them. And of course, we've got full lighting inside the cab as well, so all of this detail will be lit up. That's great. We've got glazed windows looking into the engine room as well, and these little bars on the windows, these are not just painted onto the glazing, these actually look like separately fitted parts. So that's wonderful attention to detail. And there's also detail inside the engine room as well, which has been separately fitted and separately painted. Try and get a better look at that later on for you. And then on the sides of the model, we've got excellent molded detail, as you can see, really crisp looking, as you'd expect from a new tooling. And then all of these grills on the side are separately fitted. And this gives you a really good illusion of depth here. You've got some real good relief on these grills. So I think it was well worth making those separate parts. And then I think it's the roof that has the most detail going for it. As you can see, it's a very, very complex affair with lots of different molded effects here. We've got an etched grille over the fan, which does work on this model. Really looking forward to seeing that feature. But then we've also got loads of these little sort of handles, grab rails, which have all been separately fitted, and I think they're all sort of etched or wire. Very, very impressive. And again, these just give you that impression of relief. Things standing out from the bodywork rather than just being molded on. And then I guess you can quite clearly see where the DCC hatch is. I think sometimes Accurascale hide this pretty well. On this occasion, yeah, there is quite a noticeable join there. But nevertheless, it is a nice, convenient feature, I think. So there you have it. Hopefully that was a decent overview for you. I mean, yeah, there's a few things that I think could have been better about this. The build quality, yeah, room for improvement there. The weight, yeah, I suppose I'm a little bit surprised this isn't heavier. But let's not forget that this cost £169.99. And for that money, you still get a lot of detail, as you can see. You still get a model that's relatively well built. I wouldn't say this is poor quality by any means. And of course, you still get a lot of features which I haven't tested yet. So I want to see this run. I want to see what the mechanism's like. I want to see that lighting. And of course, I want to see that working fan, because I don't think I've ever tested a model that has that feature. So that, for me, will be a first, and I'm really looking forward to that. So let's get this down onto the track and let's give it a spin. So now we get to the part of the video where I explain why I think standards have slipped a little bit here. I've already filmed the initial performance test and running in, and that was interesting. I'll show you how that went in just a second. After that, I did a disassembly, or as best I could, to show the mechanism, and that's what I want to talk about now. So yeah, the mechanism, in my opinion at least, is poorer than what Accurascale have produced before. Almost a bit disappointed by this, actually. So first things first, the base keeper plates, as usual from Accurascale actually, are clipped on, but they're clipped on with 8 clips. Really not easy to get these clips off, and of course you will want to remove these in a few years' time when you want to apply fresh lubricant or clean the pickups. So really not great that this is so difficult. But weirdly, the base keepers have been painted. They've just got this kind of dull black paint on them, which all kind of cracked and peeled off as I was handling them, went all over my hands, and of course there's a danger of this paint going all over the mechanism as well. Why are the base keepers painted? I mean, does it give them a duller finish? But they're not detailed parts, they're not realistic, so it doesn't really matter what they look like. Why have they been painted like that? Seems silly, and yeah, the little clips are so flimsy that a lot of them did break. So I can't see how you're expected to lubricate the gears and clean the pickups in future years. This model is just not designed to be serviceable. The next thing is that the loco is not all-wheel drive. You can see the center axles here are just free rolling. Now, I believe that this has been done to accommodate EM modelers. And you can see here that Accurascale do sell EM gauge wheels for these locos. And so I think by making that center axle non-driven and sort of springing it slightly instead, as you can see, it'll stay on fine scale track a bit better where the flanges are sort of finer and such as well. So I think that's why Accurascale have done this. I can't think of any other reason, because a lot of their other Coco locos have been all-wheel drive, and even I on my carpet layout had no problem with them. So yeah, I think it's done to accommodate EM modelers, which of course is great for those who model EM scale, but they really are a minority. And so the rest of us who don't model EM have had to sacrifice a third of the loco's driving wheels. And of course, because they're sprung, that means the rest of the wheels are left to take the load of the loco. So you'd want to keep those bearings nice and clean, wouldn't you? But where are they? As you can see, we don't have the sort of separate bearings that Accurascale usually use, and that's because the bearings are kind of tucked away at the ends of the axles, and they also double as the pickups as well. So this loco doesn't have wiper pickups, which is strange for Accurascale. Again, this is not great for servicing. I mean, usually with Accurascale locos, you can just pull the axles out and clean the wiper pickups easily. With these, how are you going to clean those? You're going to have to sort of ease the bogies apart and pull the axles out to clean them. You know, that's not ideal. And this is not something that you're going to have to do anytime soon, but these locos are supposed to last a good many years. You want them to be serviceable, don't you? So yeah, strange design. Okay, so the body is just clipped on, not screwed on, which I don't like that much, but it was easy enough to get the body off, and it seems reasonably secure when it is on. Of course, you don't have to remove the body if you don't want to. If all you want to do is access the DCC socket, you can just remove the panel on the roof, and that gives you good access. But with the body off, I found something else that really annoyed me. Look at the circuit board, it's just loose. It's not been screwed down, it's literally just free to float around. And it's supposed to have screws. You can see that screws have been designed into the thing, but they just weren't fitted. Now, how dodgy is that? You know, this is supposed to be a quality brand. We've got the sort of electric brains of the thing not secured down. That doesn't seem right. Otherwise though, we've got the die-cast chassis here, which is reasonably heavy. Obviously the body's plastic, so this is where the weight of the model comes from. And there is a fair bit of detail on here, as you can see. Here's some of those separately fitted parts, and there is some detail behind the grills as well. We've got pogo pins which connect power to the cab lights and also the head code boxes, so you've got no wires connecting the body and chassis, which is good. We've got stay alive capacitors built into every model, even analog ones, so that's great for DCC users. That means you're not going to lose power if you go over a dead spot on the track or anything like that. That's really good to see. And here is the 21-pin DCC decoder socket, which has the blanking plug fitted at the moment, and that's got some switches on it. Bear that in mind for later on. And then to the left of there, we've got the switches that the instructions mentioned, and they've got to be set correctly depending on which decoder you're using. Here is the working fan then. The less said about this, the better. And if I do pull the wobbly circuit board up a bit, you can see we've got what I assume is a small coreless motor which drives that fan directly. Yes, an interesting feature which I'll demonstrate later on. And then we've got just the one speaker pre-fitted here. I think there is a speaker in this enclosure, but the much larger speaker that you can buy for these is not included. You have to buy that separately, and you can see where to plug that in over there. Again, if I pull out the wobbly circuit board, you can see we've got the very substantial motor here. This does seem to be a good quality motor, and it's got dual flywheels on it, as we saw in the instructions. The gauging, not a problem. The back-to-backs came in at between 14.2 and 14.4 millimeters each, which is just comfortably below the standard, so nothing wrong with that at all. So yeah, the mechanism is a real mixed bag. It does have the basics, and there's certainly enough here to produce a very good running loco. But that's the thing really, you'll get this onto the track and it'll run perfectly and you'll be happy. But if you want to do some maintenance or servicing on it a few years down the line, it really is a nightmare. It's like it's been designed to work well, but not designed to be maintained. And I like to maintain my locos. I like to clean them and replace the lubricant from time to time. Well, how many times do you think I'll be able to take the base keepers off this before the clips have just failed? And heaven help me taking the bogies apart so that I can clean those bearing pickups and add some lubricant to that. Yeah, goodness knows how that's gonna go. So yeah, mixed feelings on the mechanism, and like leaving screws out so that the circuit board's not fitted down. That's really bad, isn't it? I mean, come on, quality control, folks. Anyway, let me jump back in time and show you how this thing ran. Okay, time to test the Class 31 for the first ever time then. Here we go. Does it work at all? Forwards direction, little bit of power. Here goes. Oh. It got stuck and then I sort of turned the power up and it overcame something. So I think something was sticking on the track. Now, is there any debris on the track? I don't think so. No. So something got caught, but it's not doing it now. Okay. So, I don't know. If anyone spotted what happened there, do let me know. Is it on the track properly? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, well, that's strange. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that was. It looks like it could be these sort of guard irons here. That's a bit wonky on there. It seems to be kind of too far over to one side. But anyway, it seems to be okay now, so I'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully that won't get any worse. All right, so in terms of lighting, we've got in the forwards direction, we've got the head code boxes lighting up. In reverse, we've got the red tail lights lighting up, which looks good. And then in terms of the cab interior, as usual, we don't appear to have any interior lights working on analog. But as we know, there's a number of interior lights which do work if you want to control this on DCC. And we've had a casualty. This thing. Yeah, it is. It's the little guard irons. So yeah, it's those parts that were catching on the track, not fitted properly. And yeah, now those have broken off. So I suppose I'll put those back on and I'll see if it works better when they're fitted straight. Right, so they seem to be just a friction fit. I've not glued them in because I think that would involve kind of gluing the two halves of the bogies together, which might be a maintenance nightmare in the future, I don't know. But is that better? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. I just took it over the Hornby power track that I've got there because it was fouling on that earlier. Okay, the other thing that is noticeably absent is the working fan. The feature I was really looking forward to. Let me move the camera. Static, not moving at all. So once again, let's go for an investigation and I'll get back to you on that. Okay, so weirdly, according to my friend Mike from Model Railways Unlimited, the fan is switched off on analog, which is weird because on Accurascale's website they talk a lot about this feature. They say that all models feature fully working scale speed roof fan that will run on DC and DCC, yet give it some power. Yeah, it's definitely not running on DC. And yeah, that's weird because, like I say, it's all over Accurascale's website, but I've not seen any mention of the feature since unboxing the model. I didn't see any mention of it on the instructions, and I certainly didn't see it mention that the feature was switched off. But Mike says the feature can be switched on. There's a switch apparently on the blanking plate, which is underneath this cover, which is not easy to get off. Goodness sake, hang on. Got it. Okay. So apparently it's switch number 7 on the blanking plate, and yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Everything is switched on except number 7, which is weird. So let's switch that on. Make sure the blanking plug's not offset. And let's try it again. Here we go. Oh my God. Okay. Well, that's insane. Did you see how quick that went? Start it off at a crawl. Turning up, turning up. God. I thought they said this was supposed to be scale speed. That's like taking off. That's full speed. Oh my word. Yeah, that is way too quick. Look at that. That's insane. That can't be scale speed. It's like, honestly, you can hear it. It sounds like a helicopter. Okay, well, fair enough, I suppose. So, yeah, that's a bit disappointing, isn't it? I mean, I go on at Hornby for introducing new features that aren't properly implemented, and then we've got this fan that's supposed to be scale speed, and even at its sort of slowest speed, it's just whirling around at insane speed like that. So that's crazy. Alright, so yeah, that's not brilliant, and look, Accurascale obviously know that it's not brilliant because it's switched off by default. So yeah, technically it works on analog, but unless you want your 31 to sort of take off and fly away on the straights, I don't think that's something that you're going to want to do. I'm sure on DCC it will be better controlled so that it's not just a blur as the thing tries to run. But yeah, on analog, that's quite distracting. I mean, even the sound of it's quite distracting. Crikey. So yeah, not a great first experience really of a working fan. It is cool that it works, but yeah, it's less a fan, more a propeller. Okay, fair enough then. Okay, so Mike's just gotten back to me about the fan thing. Apparently he's fixed the problem by soldering in a 68 ohm resistor in series with the fan, and that has fixed the problem. So yeah, there's a solution to the problem. I don't think it's a good look for Accurascale that instead of implementing that solution, they've just switched off the feature on the blanking plug and then failed to mention it in any of the paperwork. You know, the working fan was one of the main reasons why I went for the Accurascale version, and the fact that I've now got to faff around and try to solder a resistor onto the blanking plug somehow to make it work right is irritating, to say the least. And like I say, a resistor on that blanking plug from the factory, apparently, according to Mike, would have solved that. So yeah, disappointed by that feature. Not really implemented properly, at least not on analog. Okay, so now we've got the working fan, but it's obviously much noisier and it's just a blur. How is the actual performance? So let me run by at 50% speed. Sounds like a helicopter coming into land. There you go, that's 50% speed, so it seems to be well geared. Is there any torque to the mechanism? Let's see. Unless the propeller is zapping all the current from the system, of course. Let's see. 50%. Yeah, I can hear it's turning its wheels. So, yeah, it is spinning its wheels, plenty of torque, that's really good. What about the slow end? Let's see. It's a bit quieter at the slow end because the fan doesn't run at such low power. So, well, there we go. And this has not been run in yet. I will run this in before I sort of rate the performance, but straight out of the box, it is crawling amazingly. That was a bit flatulent. Can you hear that? I didn't know Class 31's 8 beans, but apparently this one does, unless it's the fan motor buzzing, I suppose. But yeah, that's great, and it's consistent too. So yeah, performance, really good. Doesn't sound great though. Sounds like there's a hive of bees living inside it, but the way it looks is great, and it seems a bit smoother in reverse actually. Yeah, it's noisy in forwards, you hear that? And then if I just flick the direction, much quieter. But like I say, it's not running yet, so I suppose there is room for improvement. So let's do that, 50% speed. Let's run it in, see how it gets on around the track. Here we go. Hopefully the crew remembers to raise the landing gear. Okay, I think it's moving a bit faster already actually. And as you can see, no slowing down on the curves. Whoa, speeding up visibly. Alright, so it's certainly a happy runner. I don't know if the noise is coming through. Like I say, it is the fan that's making all the noise. The loco itself isn't that noisy as it runs along. And actually I think after the review I'll probably be switching the fan off. That's really such a shame because it is cool, but you know, just that noise, it's just too distracting. Makes the loco sound like it sounds like a cheap loco at full power on the controller, you know, just that high-pitched motor noise. Yeah, it takes away from the loco, I think. So I think even though Accurascale say that it works on DC, and technically yes it does, I think really this feature is a DCC only thing. Because unless you're willing to solder that resistor in, I think it takes away from the experience rather than adds to it. So yeah, it's a shame about that, but it is what it is. I guess that's all I've got to say about it. Performance otherwise though, absolutely excellent. It's got great torque. We saw that it can crawl well. So once again, this is yet another brilliant Accurascale runner. Or it seems to be at the moment. I'll let this run in fully, and then I'll come back in an hour's time and I'll couple this up to some coaches or something similar, and we'll see how this gets on with a load. Alright, I'll be back shortly. Okay, coming into land, main rotor's off. There we go, smooth landing there, very nice. But yeah, that was fine, absolutely fine. I'm sick and tired of the sound of it, but performance-wise, no problems whatsoever. No derailments, no slowing down that I noticed. Nice and smooth, and obviously without the fan noise, the mechanism is nice and quiet at half speed. So, now that it's warmed up, how has the performance changed? Let me run by at 50% speed. Sorry, it makes me laugh every time that fan ramps up. Okay, 50%. There we go. Sounds faster than it is, I suppose. You know why? I'm going to stop mentioning the fan now because it is distracting, but I need to stop mentioning it every time it distracts me. Okay, torque. This was pretty good before, up to 50. Yeah, there's loads of power there. So I suppose that's one advantage of this being a little bit lighter. Not that it's terribly light. And then the crawl, let's see what that's like. Just moving back. Let's try again in both directions. This was pretty good before. Dear, sounds unhealthy, but I'm trying to ignore the sound. Yeah, and as you can see, that's really good and slow. Can I smoothly accelerate? Yeah, sort of. Perhaps not the smoothest acceleration there, but it certainly wasn't bad. And obviously on DCC, I'm sure you could get even better slow speed performance out of it, but it's still very good. Let's try it in reverse. Come on, keep going. It sounds so unhealthy, but I don't think it is the main driving motor that's to blame. Although I still think that guard iron's touching the track. Can you see it? Let me just pop the other lens on so I can show you that. Yeah, you can see that it's basically touching the track. Quite brave of them, really, to have a part like this so close to the rails, but I'm not sure if it's brave or just a bit daft to have these parts just sort of clipped onto the bogie so that they're not that secure, because this one's already dropped off when it caught on the rails, and now it looks like it's touching the track again. The back one, let me focus on that, nowhere near, so they don't sit straight. So I'm almost tempted to just snip that off. I know that's bad, but I'm not here to be sort of putting this thing back on every 20 minutes or so, every time it catches on the rails or the points or whatnot. But yeah, not too impressed by that, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be causing any problems. We'll see if it makes it to the end of the review. Pulling power wise then, this is pretty powerful actually at 0.7 newtons, which is about 40 coaches on straight and level track, so that's absolutely fine. It's not kind of industry leading pulling power though, and I say that because Accurascale's other locos have all been absolute powerhouses. This one though is about the same as other Coco locos of its size. It's not kind of smashing the competition as Accurascale's other locos did, but like I say, the torque is fine, the pulling power is far from bad, and even if it only manages 20 of those 40 coaches, that's still pretty darn good. So I've set up some Hornby Mark IIIs, which are obviously not strictly correct for this loco, but they are modern, they are in a similar sort of colour scheme, and they have the modern couplings as well. So with that, let's back up and see how the couplings work on this loco. Here we go. Nice and smooth. I'm not going to mention the fan, not going to mention it. I think I just mentioned it. Okay, can I do this smoothly? I expect so. Did it work? No. Well, it's odd because it looked as though the couplings were at the right height. Let's have another go. Yeah, I think we got it. Oh, okay then. Alright, well maybe I was just doing it a bit too slow, but as you can see it's got them. And let's move off at about 50% speed. And elsewhere on the line I've got some other Accurascale locos, so see which ones you can spot, comment down below. There is an odd one out as well, so let me know if you spot that one. This is the Accurascale Class 37, very lively run of that one, beautiful model. And then on the inside line I have what I think is, well, was my first ever Accurascale loco. I'm sure it's a lot of people's first. It is the Deltic, which is mighty, so heavy, you notice, putting that on the track. Anyway, let's see how the 31's getting on up Gordon's Hill. Okay, here we go. Any slowing down? Nope. So torque, definitely not an issue. It's not hauling a huge number of coaches here, of course, but the pulling power test shows it certainly could haul quite a bit more than this. And it's doing so with no slowing down that I can see. So performance generally is really good. So I do think this one's a mixed bag. I mean, it looks great. I'm not an expert on the prototype, but usually most people seem to be quite happy with the way Accurascale's locos look. And I certainly am. You know, I've looked at the photos of the real things. It's certainly accurate to my satisfaction. Performance, definitely nothing wrong with that either. Nice and smooth, good range of speeds, decent pulling power. Yeah, everything is absolutely fine, but I'm just used to Accurascale models just being that little bit better, that little bit more refined. You know, it's quite surprising to see an Accurascale loco that does have the odd quality problem. Seeing paint chipping off the base keepers and having details dropping off, you know, that's not been my experience of Accurascale to date, and yet that is what I saw today. Features that aren't working properly, like that fan, you know, that's quite surprising for Accurascale, as is the sort of lack of serviceability. Accurascale locos in the past, I remember the Class 37, yeah, that wasn't the best, but this one's even worse. I mean, I don't think I've damaged base keeper plates trying to take them off before, and yet I can't see how I could have done that without sort of breaking the clips. And don't even get me started on the missing screws inside the thing. I am just shocked by that. So, you know, I would say this is a great model, and I've certainly seen a lot worse, but I don't think it's one of Accurascale's best, really. And I don't quite know why that is, because the new Accurascale Class 60 that I had the pleasure of looking at an early sample of, that seems to be up to their usual standards. But yeah, not as good as usual, I would say, but still pretty darn good. I do love the way it looks, and of course once it's up and running on the track, once it's got its train, once you've got your decoder in, if that's what you're going to do, there's nothing wrong with it. It looks great and runs well. So, you know, hard to know where to stand with this one, but I think I'll just say that it's not quite up to Accurascale's usual standards, and I'll leave it at that. God's sake, there's that stupid guard iron piece again. Don't think I'll put that back on again. I think I might just leave it there and let the track vacuum cleaner mangle it. At least I'd get some satisfaction from that. But yeah, that's annoying, isn't it? Let's have some ratings then for Accurascale's brand new Class 31. And I think this is a great model on the whole, but as you can see by the ratings, this is a bit of a mixed bag, and in some places I find this model a little bit sloppy, which contrasts quite heavily with some of Accurascale's previous locos, where I thought every little detail was just perfect. Here though, I think things have moved backwards a little bit. Not though where the level of detail is concerned. I'm still giving this a 5-star. This is a brilliantly painted model. It's got tons of details. It's got sprung buffers, separately fitted grills, loads of cab detail, full lighting package, and yes, even the working fan, even though on analog the fan is pretty much unusable. But yeah, 5-star on detail. Performance again would be a 5-star if they hadn't included the fan. But because they have included the fan, that is included in performance, and because it's so naff, I can't give the loco a 5-star here. So the fan causes it to lose a star because it's just a waste of time on analog. Otherwise though, the performance is perfect. It's got plenty of torque, it doesn't slow down on the curves, nice constant in terms of speed, it can crawl well, it's sensibly geared. Yeah, the performance is fantastic, so if you want to switch the fan off and forego that feature, it would be a 5 on performance. Pulling power is okay, I would say. I mean, 40 coaches on straight and level track, that's definitely not too bad. It is though the weakest of the Accurascale diesel and electrics that I've tried, by quite a way unfortunately, and even the sort of smaller Haulage High-Mech is a lot more powerful than this. But yeah, it's okay. I think it's just I'm used to Accurascale locos being sort of mind-blowingly heavy, whereas this one's just heavy, decently heavy. Speaking of mechanism, I'm giving this a middle-of-the-road 3-star. I mean, there are good things about this. It's got a good quality motor, that's for sure. It does have all-wheel pickup, but it doesn't have all-wheel drive, which seems a little bit odd for a brand new loco in 2024. I mean, most of my engines are all-wheel drive, and they are perfectly good runners. I wouldn't fault those at all. It's also not very serviceable. To access the gears and the pickups / bearings for cleaning and lubrication is going to be a nightmare, and I damaged the model. Maybe you wouldn't if you were more careful than I was, but realistically, if the thing was held together with screws and not flimsy clips, those breakages wouldn't have happened. So yeah, accessing the loco for servicing, really not very good. And that leads us on to quality, which again, I'm not giving a great score for here, 2.5 star. Now, in terms of the way the loco looks, I mean, it is a good quality loco. Most of the detail was fitted correctly. I didn't see any hiccups in the decoration or any glue splodges or anything like that, but there are issues here. I mean, I've had parts dropping off. That little grill from the steps, that dropped off in the box. I've got other parts such as the guard irons, which are just kind of clipped to the bogies rather than fixed properly, so they were getting caught on the track, and at one point they dropped off. That's not great. Screws missing from the circuit board inside, so that the circuit board is just sort of free to float around. I mean, really? That's shoddy. And then we've got sort of flimsy clips holding the bogies together, which failed on my first attempt at removing them. So while aspects of the model are quality, others are a real letdown for me, I think, so 2.5 star. Value for money then, £169.99, that's the DCC ready price. I still think that's a really, really good price, and I have to give props to Accurascale for being able to release a model like this for that kind of price. But unfortunately, the standards do seem to have slipped a little bit. It's all very well offering great prices like this, but with their previous engines, the locos were absolutely amazing and I couldn't fault them. Here, I wonder whether corners have been cut to achieve that price, which has made the loco a little bit worse off. Not too sure, so I've given it 4 star. This would have been an absolute bargain if all of the features worked correctly and the quality was better and the mechanism was better. Unfortunately though, you know, 170 odd quid, it's not such a great deal when there are issues with the model as there are here. So yeah, perhaps not as good a value as usual. Overall though, that is 7.49 out of 10, or a grade of D. Yeah, it's a shame to be giving this a D, but there were a number of issues and I do think that is fair. So into the logbook it goes, where it is 13th place above the Class 20 and below the Metropolitan E-Class by Rapido. So a bit of a surprise result. You know, I do love Accurascale, but I love them because usually their models are better than other manufacturers and they beat other manufacturers on price. On this occasion though, I'm not convinced that that is the case. We've got the Bachmann Class 31 costing the same. Haven't tried that, maybe I should. And we've certainly seen much better quality models than this one. So very much mixed feelings. It's a decent model, don't get me wrong, but I can't come out of this review saying don't bother looking at the Bachmann 31, because for the same price, if that loco is better quality and it's more serviceable, even without the working fan on DC, that could be the better option. Alright then folks, well that will just about do it for this review of Accurascale's brand new Class 31. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. I mean, I suppose I've been grumbling quite a bit because we're just used to perfection with Accurascale, aren't we? So yeah, I have grumbled quite a bit about a few aspects of this model, but on the whole, you know, it's a good job, it's nice and modern, it looks the part, beautiful performer of course, lots of features as well, so yeah, there's a lot about this model to like, I would say. A few things have irritated me, maybe they're just pet hates, maybe I'm just too much of a fuddy-duddy when it comes to these things, but you know, can't help the way you feel, and I'm always going to be honest about what I think about a loco. But do let me know what you think about this. Have I been too harsh? Are the issues I've highlighted not a problem for you? I mean, certainly DCC users probably won't care about how the fan works on analog, so yeah, I get that, that's fine. But equally, they say on their website that it works on analog and that it's, you know, it works at a scale speed. So I expected that to be true, and I was disappointed that it wasn't. But otherwise, yeah, an interesting loco to look at. Certainly enjoyed the review, and I hope you have as well. So thank you so much for watching. Check out the affiliate links if you'd like to pick one of these up. And if you'd like me to review one of the new Bachmann Class 31s, please do let me know, because I started off this review thinking, yeah, Accurascale are probably going to have wiped the floor with them. Well, I think if Bachmann's 31 is halfway competent, the two could be much closer than I was expecting, and possibly even Bachmann could have come out on top with this one. I'm not sure. But anyway, let me know if that's something you'd like me to do, and I will look into it. For now though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you very, very soon for another review. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.